Have you ever wondered, what do these people know that I don't know? How do I do it? How do I find my purpose, my passions? What if you could sit down with some of the wisest experts, everyday leaders, and inspirational people who could answer your deepest questions? That is what we do here on the Inspirational Living Podcast. We invite you to join us as we hold conversations, share wisdom, tips, and tools to inspire you, ignite your passions and vision for your life, to awaken your sense of purpose and hope, and leave you inspired to design your best life. Join me, your host, Psychologist Dr. Shawn Horn, as we take you on an inspirational, motivational, and educational journey so you can inspire by living an inspired life. This is episode 11, and we are talking about boundaries. Boundaries are so confusing, aren't they? I have people ask me all the time, like, what is the boundaries? I don't understand that. And a lot of times people see it as these aggressive statements, these declarations we make about what we will and we will not tolerate, and what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. And if you cross this boundary, then this will be your consequence. This is not boundaries. In that example where people are setting boundaries to affect other people's behavior, this essentially is not an adequate boundary because it's reflecting our attempts to manage other people's feelings, to manage their behavior, to manage the outcome. And anytime we do that, we are stepping outside of ourselves, outside of what is in our control, what is in our ability to affect. So let me share with you how I see boundaries. Boundaries essentially are like the fences we have in our yards. They are the line that separates my property from other people's property. They are the lines that separate what part is mine and what part is not mine, what I am responsible for and what I'm not responsible for, what I can change and what I can't change, what is in my control and what is out of my control. So we are letting go of any attempt to have other people manage the parts that are on our side of the fence. What that means is we are letting go of the mindset that you have to be so tuned into me that you know what I feel, you know what I think, you know what I want. And if you did, then you would behave these ways. This way of thinking really sets us up for a lot of conflict, a lot of problems, because it just doesn't work that way. It would be really great and nice if it did. And I hope that people in my life would be so tuned into me. But the reality is most of the time, they just aren't. They are not in our head. So we literally have a boundary called a skull that we can't enter. We can't enter a person's skull and get into their brain and know what they're thinking, know what their mind is doing, why they're behaving the way they're behaving, and so forth. But we can in our own skull. We can tune into our own needs, honor our own needs, and begin to take care of them. So we're not betraying ourselves, we're honoring ourselves and what we need. So let me go in a little more detail about this. It's pretty simple when you think about a boundary in the way that we say, if you can't play nice on the playground, you can't play in the playground. If you can't be nice to me, you can't be with me. If you're not safe in my home, you can't be in my home. If you are not giving me the service that you told me you would give me, then I will not utilize your services. What we're doing is we are honoring what is safe for us, what is best for us, what we want and need by advocating for those things and by saying no to things. So having healthy boundaries involves saying yes and no. It involves making a request and setting limits for what we can and cannot do. So let's say, for example, I know that if I put too many things on my agenda, if I overcommit myself, I'm going to be tired, I'm going to get irritable, and eventually I'm going to resent all the people I said yes to. It's not their fault that they made those requests for me. It was my responsibility to say what I can and can't do. Yes, I want to do all those things for everybody. I want to make them happy. I want them to know that I do want to be with them and I do love them and I do want to be helpful. However, if I do 5 things in one day, I'm not going to be helpful. I'm not going to be efficient at what I do. So it's going to be really important that I say to them, I would love to help you, but I do have these commitments today, so I can't do that today. Instead, how about we do that next week? Now, what gets in the way with people in doing that is they become fearful of what if they get mad at me? What if they don't ask me to do things anymore? And that part we want to let go of. We cannot manage the outcome. So that reflects our attempts to manage what someone feels and thinks and to control the outcome. And again, this is a reflection of a poor mental boundary that we have for ourselves in what we can and cannot manage. So the most important principle here is that by saying no today, we are saying yes to tomorrow. If I say yes in the moment to make them happy, I essentially am saying no in the future. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to start to get mad with all the yeses I said, and I will end up becoming more resentful. And then eventually I might explode at that person, or I might abandon that relationship, saying, well, they always demand these things from me. They always ask me to do things, and I'm always doing so much, and they don't do anything for me. That's not a them problem. That's a us problem. We allowed that to happen for too long. We allowed them to continue to ask from us without us honoring our own boundary that now's not a good time, or not honoring our need to be in reciprocal relationships, to be in relationships with people who are emotionally available to us. By saying yes to them over and over to make them happy, we created a scenario of being in relationship with someone who loves to receive what we have to offer, who can be in relationship without any expectations of returning that kindness or effort back to us. So if we set those limits today, then if they get all bugged out and don't like it, then good news, because they're letting us know right now, right here, that they're not emotionally available. And they're not the type of person that will be in a relationship with us because they love us. They're in a relationship with us because they love being loved by us. And that essentially creates that energy vampire stuff where we just feel like it's all that energy is getting sucked out of us and going into them, and there's no return in that investment. So I rather know that now, today, than to discover that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when I finally do get the courage to set a boundary, which means I'm honoring my limits by telling them what I can and cannot do. And if they get irritated and mad, then okay, that's just where it's at. It will reveal what people are willing to offer to us. Are they gracious? Are they forgiving? Are they tolerant? Are they patient? We will discover that when we set our boundaries. If they're impatient and not tolerant and demanding, we will discover that when we set that boundary. So the boundary isn't about trying to change them. It's honoring our own limits and then letting reality be what it can. So the mental boundary we have is that we understand I can't control that piece. I can't control what they do or don't do. And so I'm deceiving myself if I believe that by behaving a certain way, they'll want to be with us. That's a conditional relationship. We are deceiving ourselves by believing that if I am giving enough, they will want to be with me. If I am loving enough, they will love me back. If I am patient enough, they will be patient with me. And that is a thinking error. We call that thinking error the heaven fallacy, which is a tit for tat kind of mentality that if I'm forgiving to you 10 times, then this one time that I'm asking you to be forgiving to me, of course you will, because you'll know that I've been so forgiving to you. And it just doesn't work that way. And that's when we get mad and hurt when we think, oh my gosh, I have done all this stuff for this person and they can't even extend that back to me, like as if it's due to you. So instead, we just want to focus on doing what works. What is going to work in this situation at hand? The situation I'm in, not the situation I wish I was in, or I think I should be in, or ought to be in, is just what I have right now. So given these variables, given the situation, what do I need to do that is within my power? I can't manage what they think or feel or how they're going to behave. But what I can do is say, I don't let people cuss at me or call me names, so I'm going to end this conversation. If you're willing to talk with me without calling me names, I'm happy to talk with you. Or I'm not willing to cook if you're not helping with the cleanup. So if you don't clean up, then I'm just not going to cook. But if you do help me clean up, then I can continue to cook. So these are examples. I'm reaching for examples here. So I hope that connects with you. But we're essentially looking at, well, what can I do in this situation? So like with our kids, if we say, I'm just not willing to let my children get away with not doing their chores. And yet you say, but Shawn, they're not doing them. I can't make them do them. And so you use emotional parenting, and emotional parenting is where you plead with your kids. You say, look what you're doing to me. Look how this is affecting me. Please don't do this. As if the kid is going to look at you and go, oh my goodness, my behavior is distressing my mom. It's making her feel unloved and uncared for. And I don't want to do that. So I'm going to be responsive and responsible. I don't know any child that really behaves or thinks like that. We all think our kids are going to end up psychopaths until they finally hit 28 or something. We think, how can they be so insensitive? It's not that they are, it's just kind of where they're at in life. It's very egocentric. It's very self-referenced kind of place. Instead, you say, well, I want help in this kitchen. You know that that's your job. If you do it, then you have this positive consequence. If you don't do it, then you have this negative consequence. And that could be freedoms removed. That could be financial penalties. You can get really creative and clever with that. But essentially, this is the principle. We're telling people that if you give me the service that I am requesting, then I will be a committed and loyal customer. If you don't give me the service that I requested, then I will not be seeking services from your business. And in fact, I might write a poor review, or I might write a positive review depending on the service that I receive. That is within your power. So we don't have to be aggressive with our boundaries. Being more emotional and intense and angry does not ensure that people are going to recognize that you have a right to that boundary, or that it's reasonable and it's logical, that of course they should know that. Most people just stop listening to you and they just start watching your behavior. So being angry does not give us often the results we want. We get reinforced if people will concede to us, like they'll just say, fine, okay, here's your money back, or we'll give you what you're asking for. But they're doing it in a reactionary way. It's not really ensuring what we need, because we might continue to get services from that person and they don't provide good services, or the children may not really understand the principle behind why we're holding them accountable. It's the idea that in real life, if you don't do your job duties, you will get fired from your job. We just kind of make those real life associations. So what we've said so far is that boundaries are not about setting limits to manage other people's behavior, like to manage what they think, to manage what they do. Boundaries are about managing our inner world, managing the things that we are responsible for, that we can change, that we can control, and teaching the world how to interact with us. Teaching them, I'm willing to have this and I'm not willing to have that. I will continue with this service or I won't continue with this service. You can talk with me respectfully, but you can't talk to me disrespectfully. We're teaching the world how to be with us. And we're tuning in to our own needs instead of asking other people to tune into our needs. And the reason we're doing that is because it just is a true principle that other people can't read our mind or our feelings or even know our story and have the same bias that we have towards ourselves. People just don't have that information. And we all have self-serving bias where we see ourselves in a positive light and others in a more negative light. So it's more likely when we have a complaint that people are going to not share that perspective with us. So instead of demanding and requiring that other people do, we are making the shift in our mind that we will just take the right effective action should they connect with it, and if they don't connect with it, what are we going to do about it? So we are now honoring our own needs. We're building self-trust, that we're not betraying our nudges anymore, that we're not saying yes to our no's to make people happy in the moment. We're not going to do people pleasing anymore because it doesn't work. And eventually we will resent the people we are trying to please, and the relationship will terminate. So the best, most loving thing you can do for your relationship sometimes is saying no. Sometimes it is telling people, I would love to volunteer for that, but I cannot. See, the thing is that if you say yes to their request, but you really can't do it, then at the last minute you pull out and you say, oh my gosh, why did I say yes to this? I really can't. So you call them up, say, I'm sorry, I can't go today. Or you don't show up. That will really get people angry with us, and they'll end up seeing us as flaky or not caring or irresponsible or fill in the blank. We're really helping other people to feel trust with us, that they will know when we say yes to something that it is a firm yes. When we say no to something, it will be a firm no. Of course, we can be flexible and we can change our mind. However, people will know that when you commit, you will show up because you will be able to. It's much healthier, it's more effective to tell people from the start that you can do something or you can't do something when it's really true for you. That will make your relationship solid, and it will please people in that they will know they get what they get with you. They can trust what you're saying, that if it's not okay with you, you'll just let them know it's not okay with you. People will be free from having to read in between the lines, to having to read the tea leaves and try to figure out, but do you really mean it? Do you really feel that way? They don't have to do it because you'll just tell them. With that, we also want to make the shift in our own mind that we are going to let other people just be responsible for speaking their truth. If you say, are you angry? And they go, no, I'm not angry. Well, they're responsible for speaking their truth. We can say, it looks like you're angry. It sounds like you're angry, but I hear you saying you're not angry. So I'm going to just run with that. If you change your mind or there's something you want to talk to me about, let me know, because I would love to work that out with you and attend to whatever I need to attend to. But I'll let you just tell me when you're ready to do that. And that's that. If you say to someone, do you want help? They go, oh, no, I got it. Okay, that's up to them. And you can say, well, should you decide that you do, please know that I would love to help you. It would make me feel part of this. It would make me feel like I'm giving you something of value and I'm loving you back. So if you have an opportunity for me to help, I would love to. And then that's that. You let people just be responsible, even though you know they need help. If they say no, it's no. And that could be really hard to tolerate that. Ultimately, setting boundaries also involves us tolerating the discomfort of other people, tolerating their distress, their pain, their anxiety, their anger, their inappropriate behaviors or their problematic behaviors, in that we recognize that we can't manage that and we no longer take on the job of managing that. And that means I have to live in the midst that they're still in that place. And that's really uncomfortable. But that's a healthy boundary to have within yourself. Because if you continue to assign yourself the responsibility to manage that, you will end up getting burned out, resentful, angry, and neglected. So we don't want to do that. That's my Boundaries 101 for you today. If you found this helpful, please come on over to my website and subscribe so you can get information on my upcoming masterclasses, where I will teach in more detail about how to set boundaries, how to make our requests, basically teaching interpersonal effectiveness skills. My master courses will address many different areas, including mindfulness skills, emotion regulation skills, distress tolerance skills, and, as I said, interpersonal effectiveness skills. I hope you will join us in the master courses. And so come on over at drshawnhorn.com, or you can go to my Instagram page and go to the link in my bio and sign up for the master courses there. And you'll get information as soon as they launch. Thank you for joining us today. I hope this discussion was inspiring and uplifting to your journey. Please remember this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not meant to substitute a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Also, make sure you rate this show, share with those you know, and send us a shout out. Please message me with any topics you would like me to address or questions you have on social media at Dr. Shawn Horn or on my website. Thank you again, and may you find joy in the journey and be richly blessed.